9. True Horror Street Ories. It was late October in Cedar Pines, Oregon, a mountain town tucked between whispering pines and forgotten folklore. By midnight, the fog had already swallowed the streets whole. Hannah, a sharp-minded journalism student with chestnut hair tied back in a bandana, had returned home for fall break. Alongside her were two of her closest friends, Jules, a free-spirited artist with a cynical streak, and Maddox, a quiet but fiercely loyal computer science major. They met up at an old inn on the edge of the forest, one said to have been closed since the 70s, but when they arrived, the front door was already open. No one else was supposed to be there. Inside, the inn was untouched by time. Dust on velvet chairs, rotted floorboards, faint music from nowhere. They planned to film a ghost hunting video, more of a joke than anything. But everything changed when they found the mirror in the ballroom. Cracked down the center, it didn't reflect them right. Behind them, they saw something else, something tall, cloaked, with a rusted iron mask and a torn black cloak that dragged like smoke. The figure didn't move until the lights blinked out. From that moment on, he stalked them, the iron mask. No footsteps, no voice, just the metallic scrape of his presence echoing closer. Jules saw him first in the stairwell, then Maddox in the dining hall. Hannah caught him watching her from the woods beyond the window, never blinking. Each character grew unraveled. Maddox became obsessed with decoding old blueprints he found in the cellar. Jules started hearing whispers that weren't there. Hannah's dreams bled into waking. The iron mask was testing them, feeding on fear, always closer. They tried to leave. Every path curved back to the inn. Every phone call failed. The more they resisted, the more the place transformed. Walls stretched, doors vanished. At night, the iron mask would enter their rooms, standing at the foot of the bed, waiting. In the final scene, they find a room untouched by decay, a child's room. Inside, a drawing of the iron mask, dated 1934. Written in a child's handwriting, he watches when they forget, he returns when they laugh. As they stare at the drawing, the mirror begins to crack again. This time, from the inside. He's not just watching, he's stepping through. The storm rolled in just after dusk. The inn stood motionless in the thick of the Oregon woods, its silhouette buried in fog. Inside, the fireplace crackled, though no one had lit it. Maddox hadn't slept. His hands trembled over yellowed blueprints, lips whispering theories to no one. Hannah tried to talk to him, but his eyes kept flicking toward the ceiling, as if something paced above. Jules kept her camera on, filming everything, not to capture ghost butt proof they weren't losing their minds. They had sealed off the ballroom where the mirror cracked, but it didn't matter. The iron mask didn't need doors. He appeared in reflections, in static, in shadows that moved too slowly. That night, they found their friend Emily, who'd arrived hours earlier, standing motionless at the top of the stairs, face blank, one foot hovering over the edge. Hannah reached her just in time. Emily collapsed, said nothing, didn't sleep after. That was how he worked. The iron mask didn't chase. He broke pieces slowly. He waited. The next day, the group split up to search the inn. Maddox followed the blueprints to an old service hallway behind the kitchen. There, he discovered a room not marked on any map, no corners. The floor curved like a bowl, walls sloped inward. At the center, a rusted helmet, not a replica, real, ancient. It was cold to the touch. He didn't tell the others. That night, doors slammed without wind. Jules caught glimpses of the mask in her camera, but never with her eyes. She showed Hannah the footage. Frame by frame, the figure crept closer to Maddox. Always Maddox. Emily began humming a lullaby no one recognized. When asked, she didn't remember singing. By the third night, the group realized Maddox had changed. He stopped eating, started drawing the same shape over and over. A figure with no face, a helmet, long cloak. He insisted it was just a dream, but his eyes no longer blinked at normal speed. The iron mask wasn't just haunting them. He was choosing. Maddox became violent when they tried to take the blueprints, said the room needed to stay open, said it was a doorway. Hannah and Jules locked him in the library. But when they returned with help, the door was wide open. He was gone. The fireplace burned higher. They searched the entire inn. In the basement, they found him kneeling in the cornerless room. The helmet now on his head, he turned to them, slow. The voice that came out was not his. The mask doesn't speak with words. It moves through others. It survives by memory, by fear. The lights went out. In total blackness, they heard footsteps circle them, heavy, deliberate. When the lights returned, Emily was missing. They searched for hours, found her in the attic, behind insulation, curled up like a child. She whispered one word before fainting, returned. As dawn approached, Hannah made the decision. They had to destroy the room. Jules gathered what they could: tools, rope, fire extinguishers. They pried into the walls, broke through floorboards. But the room rebuilt itself. Behind every hole was more of the same smooth surface. No corners, no edges. Then they noticed something terrifying. The blueprints were changing in real time. The lines moved. Rooms shifted. The cornerless room was growing. The Iron Mask was no longer a visitor. He was home. In the final moments, Jules played back her camera footage from the first night, frame by frame. Someone had been guiding the mask through the halls. A shadow that matched Maddox's build. Long before he disappeared, Maddox didn't become possessed. He brought it there. The mask was waiting. Maddox led him through. The final shot is from Hannah's point of view. Alone, holding the camera, the screen glitches. A frame flashes, her own reflection wearing the mask. It's not about who it takes. It's about who lets it in. The 2nd of September, 13 a.m., Nevada desert. A single road cuts through black sand, leading to an abandoned mining town named Grief Hollow. Hannah stood by the car, engine dead, phone out of signal, watching the town breathe fog that shouldn't exist. Jules climbed out behind her, holding a flashlight. They had traced Maddox's last GPS ping here, weeks after the inn. He was never found. Only fragments left in security, footage flickering silhouettes, distant chanting, a figure always present, but never explained. The town was silent. Dust blew between leaning wooden shacks and shattered glass windows. A faded chapel stood crooked at the hill's edge. Inside it, they hoped, was something left to bury. They weren't alone. The Iron Mask had returned. The chapel doors opened by themselves. Inside, pews were shattered, symbols scorched across the walls. Beneath the altar was a stairwell that descended into rock. They descended without speaking. The air was too still. Below, they found narrow tunnels and walls carved with ancient patterns, none they could read. But Jules recognized one thing: the same curved architecture as the room with no corners. They weren't under the chapel anymore. They were beneath something built long before it. Footsteps began to echo behind them, though they moved silently. A second flashlight cut out. Then the cold returned, not the kind you feel on skin, but something that slides beneath it. They saw him again, the Iron Mask, at the end of a corridor, motionless, not watching, waiting. His armor was darker now, more fractured, as if he had been burned or rebuilt. His cloak dragged across stone like wet leaves. The light bent around him. He moved without sound. Jules stepped forward, whispering Maddox's name. The mask tilted its head, slow, not confusion recognition. The tunnel shook. Candles lit themselves, then extinguished. When light returned, the walls had changed. No door behind them, no end ahead. They were inside his memory. Jules tried filming again, but her screen showed only static. Then a face, not hers. Maddox wearing the helmet, smiling without lips. A whisper followed them. It wasn't language. It was a pressure, a question they almost remembered but could never answer. They ran, but corners dissolved. Steps became circles. The chapel above, no longer existed. Time passed differently there. Hours felt like minutes, or maybe minutes became years. Eventually, they found a room, smooth walls, perfectly round, symbols humming softly. In the center, a mirror. Hannah stepped forward. Her reflection was not her. It blinked slower. Behind it, the mask appeared. Then behind her, she turned, screamed, but no sound came. Jules grabbed her, pulling her back. The mirror cracked, not from force, but as if rejecting something. A deep hum followed. The mask didn't move, but the room pulsed like a heartbeat. That was when they saw the truth. Maddox was not possessed. He had become part of it. He had chosen. And now, the mask searched for its next host. Jules threw salt from her baga, last resort from an old ritual they'd researched. The room reacted violently. The mirror shattered. Wind tore through stone. The mask staggered, not injured, just surprised. It watched them flee. Watched, but did not chase. It never had to. They emerged in daylight, crawling through a hole behind the chapel. Time had passed. Their car was rusted. Nearby, the town was empty again, silent, as if it had never existed. But Hannah's hand had changed, pale, veins darker. When she looked in reflective glass, her eyes blinked twice. The second blink wasn't hers. The mask left something behind. They didn't speak during the drive. Didn't stop. Couldn't. That night, Jules reviewed her camera footage. Nothing played. But in the audio, beneath static, she heard Hannah humming a lullaby. The same one Emily once sang. Different key. Slower. Hannah didn't remember recording it. But the next morning, Jules found a circle drawn in ash on the motel floor. No corners. And the whispering had returned. The mask doesn't need a face, just an invitation. A place without shape, a mind with cracks. The 31st of October, 1:29 a.m., northern Pennsylvania. Rain hit the windows in uneven taps. Hannah sat upright in the motel bed, drenched in sweat, her eyes unfocused. She had seen the mask again, not in the mirror, but in the dream that didn't end when she woke. Jules drove them to a forgotten town called Briar Hollow, once a psychiatric facility, now sealed and fenced off. But Jules had found a name scratched into Hannah's mirror that morning. A patient file. Thomas Elric. Last seen 1,983. Disappeared mid-treatment. Reported speaking in languages no staff understood. Always drawing circles. Always humming. They broke in after dark. The air was heavier inside. Every hallway curved slightly, just enough to confuse direction. Wallpaper peeled like skin, and symbols had been drawn against them, matching what they saw underground in Nevada. They weren't alone this time either. The iron mask appeared in flickers, behind cracked doors, in mirrors missing glass, in puddles without water. His presence was louder now, closer, more frequent. But something else had changed. He was watching Hannah more than anyone. She didn't speak much. Her reflection lagged half a second behind her. They found a room deep in the west wing, locked from the outside. Inside were hundreds of papers glued to the walls. All the same hand, all the same symbol. A circle with 7 jagged points. In the center, drawn in black charcoal, a figure in a mask. Then, a scream. Jules turned. Hannah was gone. They ran through the wing, calling out. Doors opened on their own. Lights flickered. The facility groaned like it was breathing. Then they saw her standing in a therapy room, speaking in another voice. Deeper, slower, a language with no vowels. Behind her, the mask moved. He stepped through the wall like shadow through fog. He raised one hand, not to strike, to offer, to choose. Jules threw the rest of the salt they had. Nothing happened. The mask turned his gaze. Windows cracked. The air pulled inward. Suddenly, from behind, another voice. A boy, thin, trembling. Thomas, still a child, still alive, somehow. He whispered a warning. The mask doesn't kill, it waits. It wears you, piece by piece, until you forget where you end, and it begins. The mask lunged, lights burst, walls shifted, and everything turned black. Jules woke in daylight, outside the building, alone. Hannah was gone, Thomas too, but her phone buzzed. A video message from Hannah. No audio, just her smiling inside the room. Behind her, the circle on the wall, and the mask beside her, motionless. Then the video looped and looped. The 12th of November, 2:41 a.m., Portland, Maine. The fog rolled thicker than usual, swallowing the docks. Jules hadn't slept in days. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the mask staring from a hallway that never ended. Her phone kept receiving the same video of Hannah, same smile, same loop. The footage wasn't online. It didn't exist anywhere else. But it kept returning, even when deleted. She was being drawn somewhere. She could feel it. Every crack in the walls, every flicker of light. Something was trying to find its way through her. Jules reached out to Leo, a former journalist turned archivist. He had once researched disappearances at Briar Hollow before vanishing from public view. Leo agreed to meet. His apartment was lined with shelves of case files, maps, photos. He showed her a sketch of the mask from 1931, seen in Savannah, another from 1890 in Kansas. Always the same armor, the same empty stare, the same presence before people vanished. They traced the symbol circle with 7 points to something older, a sect from Eastern Europe, a ritual of passage, a being that wears the living to see through their eyes. Leo said it was never a ghost, never a demon. It was something that passed between people like a disease, a thought turned into shape. The final address they found matched an abandoned lighthouse on the southern tip, the kind that hadn't worked in decades. But last night, fishermen reported lights coming from it. Jules and Leo went that night. The air grew colder the closer they walked. The sea itself was still, no sound but their feet. Inside the lighthouse was wrong. The floor had changed to stone. The walls curved in unnatural ways. Gravity shifted in certain corners. They found Hannah's coat on the stair rail, dusty, but dry. It hadn't rained that day, or the last 3. As they reached the top, they found mirrors stacked against the wall. Hundreds, some broken, some blackened. In one, they saw a room that didn't exist in the lighthouse, a room with a single chair, and Hannah sitting there, mouthing words backwards. Leo whispered that they were near the convergence, the point where the mask chose its next host. Jules begged him to leave. He stayed. The mirrors began to vibrate, a hum built in the walls. And then the mask stepped out, not from the shadows, but from Leo's reflection. It was the same mask, same ragged cloak, but the eyes behind it were Leo's now. His voice echoed through the room, layered in chords. You kept looking, you kept feeding it. That is how it grows. Belief, memory, fear, all doors. Jules ran, but the lighthouse had changed. The stairs twisted into an Escher-like maze. Each turn led to the same floor. She smashed mirrors, burned pages. She tried to forget. But forgetting doesn't erase it. It waits behind the next thought, behind the moment your mind wanders. She woke up days later in a hospital. No one found the lighthouse. Leo was declared missing, but her phone buzzed. This time, it wasn't Hannah. It was Jules, looking directly at the camera. Video was dated 3 days ahead. She watched herself whisper one word: come, because the mask doesn't end lives. It replaces them.